So one interesting thing about the AI revolution is it's propelled this infrastructure conversation. We never used to talk about the chips behind it or behind any tech revolution. But now NVIDIA is like the darling of the tech industry because they are supplying all the chips that are driving this entire revolution. Just a couple weeks ago, or this last month, NVIDIA became the first $4 trillion company.
Yeah, that's insane.
This is unheard of.
That's insane.
It signals that there's a lot of money flowing into this sector.
Yeah.
And I don't think the people underwriting those checks are very intelligent people.
Yeah.
So they clearly see something on the horizon, whether it's super intelligence that they see on the horizon, that is worth building.
How will I realize returns on my investment? By investing into like an AI data center.
It's a sport of kings.
Right.
It's not, if you are coming into this conversation, clearly you have to come with hundreds of billions.
Right.
You can't just, you can't play small. It's a factory to produce intelligence. You could sell that to any company, or you could run whatever model that you prefer and sell that intelligence or those tokens to any company.
The focus, it can be very broad, and there are certain companies that power 90% of this value chain. Try and identify these companies and invest in them.
The cloud is not in a cloud, it's in a data center.
Yeah.
Why do you think we're not hearing any announcements of data centers in Africa?
You wouldn't believe it, but there's a third-party tier 4 data center here in Ghana.
Okay.
Right, it's in Medina.
Okay.
And lots of people don't know that. I'm pretty sure there will be a very GPU-intensive data center.
Okay, that's good.
That's
good because we need our own sovereign AI as they.
You can ask ChatGPT a prompt about you and say, okay, based on what you know about me, give me a risk
and the results are shocking. They're very eerie as
Absolutely.
to what it knows about you.
So imagine if the FBI goes to OpenAI and says, give me a profile of William Tim.
Funny enough, that we need, if you set up a data center here, you are building the ecosystem around that, the skills that are needed to sort of manage it and run. That's jobs. That's in a place like Ghana, Nigeria, we hear of perennial power outages. And these things are power hungry. So how do we reconcile the two? I feel like till we are actively solving the power problem, it might even be irresponsible to advocate for data centers to come. So what, are you going to take the power from the residential homes and then power data centers? Like, no, you're going to have a revolution if you do that. But I do think we need to solve the power problem.
Welcome back to the Exponentials podcast. Last time we spoke about the AI tsunami. This time we are taking it into the AI engine room.
Yep, this episode will be focusing on the infrastructure that's powering AI, the AI factories, data centers, chips, and of course the actual power that is driving this AI revolution.
Our exponential angle is the incredible demand for computing power that's driving innovation. Okay, William, today our main discussion is about the AI engine room, which means that the infrastructure that is powering the AI revolution. Our first segment is the global tech news. So we'll start off by speaking about some recent articles in the news about AI infrastructure. The first item I would like us to talk about is NVIDIA has plans for a new AI chip for China amid geopolitical tensions. What are your thoughts on this article? Share your views, opinions.
So one interesting thing about the AI revolution is it's propelled this infrastructure conversation. We never used to talk about the chips behind it or behind any tech revolution. But now NVIDIA is like the darling of the tech industry because they are supplying all the chips that are driving this entire revolution. I found this article on this news on the China chip quite interesting because clearly the global powers have realized the importance of AI. And the US, being the home of NVIDIA, recognizes their lead in frontier chip development and obviously wants to hamstring China's adoption rate.
Yeah.
So I think up until the current US administration, NVIDIA wasn't allowed to sell chips into China, actually. But now I think they have some sort of specialized arrangement where now NVIDIA is developing a slightly nerfed chip where it's not at their frontier. I think they're currently on their Blackwell series of chips with Rubin coming up next.
Yeah.
So this is like a nerfed version. But even though it's nerfed, there's still huge demand for the chip. TSMC, which is also a big part of the infrastructure value chain, is the main manufacturer of chips for NVIDIA. So NVIDIA designs the chips, and they give the designs to TSMC to manufacture the chips, and then there's a whole lot of packaging and etc. that goes on after. So following the new chip that has been developed, NVIDIA has actually increased their orders to TSMC for these chips. That lets you know that this is real. If there's this amount of capital going on behind it, then it's not a fad, it's not a phase. There is some conversations we could have as to whether eventually we might feel like we overbuilt. But I am of the belief that AI is like electricity. Like you can't over-generate electricity. We'll find a way to use it. So it's the same way you can't overproduce intelligence. It's like, no, we will just, that means the price just goes down, etc., etc. So I found this very interesting, and sort of tangential to this is the fact that NVIDIA is getting loads of orders. Not just NVIDIA, AMD, everyone in this chip ecosystem is booked and busy. Booked and busy with backlogs even. So I'm very encouraged by the development, but we'll talk about this a bit more. It just reminds me more and more about how we are not seeing any of this in Africa.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get
eventually.
there.
But just before we move, why do you think that NVIDIA is now building a chip for China? Do you think that the recent rise of these DeepSeek models and open models that China is building is fueling some of this?
So one of the main goals of America, at least, is to export their technology. They want to become the platform of choice.
Right.
So the reason they sort of caved in and decided, okay, no, we have to let China get some of these NVIDIA chips is because they don't want to give some of the inherent companies in China like Huawei an opening to build an AI chip. Because obviously, if NVIDIA is banned from China, then Huawei has a lot more demand. And then Huawei would get better at chip development.
Right.
And then their chips are going to be exported to the rest of the world.
So it's geopolitics.
It's geopolitics at play. 100% geopolitics.
Right.
100% geopolitical.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's very insightful. And I think the rise of these models especially is pushing a lot of investment into China.
Huge. Some of these, I mean, I think, obviously we spoke about how investing is a big part of this podcast. I think just a couple weeks ago, or this last month, NVIDIA became the first $4 trillion company.
Yeah, that's insane.
This is unheard of.
That's insane.
And think about the speed at which they went from 3 trillion to 4 trillion. And that's upside that as an investor, and not necessarily NVIDIA, but the ecosystem, you could have captured some part of it. But the reason I brought that up is it signals that there's a lot of money flowing into this sector.
Yeah.
And I don't think the people underwriting those checks are very intelligent people.
Yeah.
So they clearly see something on the horizon, whether it's super intelligence that they see on the horizon, that is worth building. But regarding this AI chip for China, is 100% geopolitics.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, America has been a very geopolitical country for God knows how long. So yeah, I mean, they like to maintain some sort of control over the global economy.
And they want to export, they want everyone to build on American technology.
Yes.
Because I think it's safe to say Huawei won the 5G rate. Most of the telecoms providers in Africa, etc., is based on Huawei technology.
Yeah.
Mainly Huawei. There was a period where there was the Ericssons and the Siemens, but they never really broke free. So I think they are trying to avoid making the same mistake they made with 5G, where now the 5G stack a lot of it is built on Huawei technology.
Yeah.
And America and NVIDIA obviously want to get to a point where AI around the globe is built on the NVIDIA stack or the AMD stack or the American stack. So I think that's very noteworthy.
Yeah. Okay, I think that brings us to our second news item. So in terms of like fundraising, I mean, you touched on that a bit. I would like us to focus more on like the fundraising aspect and how these funds are being used to expand on the infrastructure. The second item we have was XAI, which is a subsidiary of Elon Musk's companies, which is, I think, the company that's behind Grok.
Yeah, the Grok
which
LLM
is their
model.
LLM model, yes. They secured a couple of billions to fund a new AI infrastructure project. Share some thoughts on that.
So I found this very interesting but very predictable. And XAI is not the only company doing it.
Right.
OpenAI just closed a new funding round. Microsoft, Amazon, and Google recently reported their earnings for Q2 2025, and they all increased their capex budget.
Right.
Yeah, I think Google's capex budget went up to 85 billion. Meta is, expected to spend over 100 billion next year. Like, these are crazy figures that we never used to hear about. I know Mark Zuckerberg came out and announced he's trying to build a data center the size of Manhattan. I'm like, it's a race.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot of not just venture capital, but actual, established, publicly traded companies investing in their capex. Goes back to the earlier point that we made. This is the people who are in these rooms making these decisions. They have a lot of info that we are not privy to, and still feel like they need to invest in this. That clearly tells you they see something real. They're having some breakthroughs in their, in their labs, and they feel like, no, we need to chase this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I expect this to continue. And one other thing that is becoming a bottleneck, though, just thinking about these news items, is the power. Because now a lot of these data centers are becoming power constrained.
Hungry,
like some of these things are taking enough power to power a small town or thousands of homes. So that is becoming the bottleneck, and I'm curious to see how this concept scales out, because this whole concept of AI factories are going to become the new norm.
Yeah.
If a lot of work is going to move into AI, then you're going to need a lot more infrastructure to power it, a lot more chips, a lot more power, a lot more infrastructure, a lot more water, which you can talk more about later. How the demands this will have on public infrastructure, and the novel ways that companies might need to actually solve this, because it's really not that straightforward.
Yeah, so I mean, from a financial perspective, right, can you explain to our viewers how what it looks like for an investor investing in this infrastructure? So just a bit of context, how will I realize returns on my investment by investing into like an AI data center, for instance? So,
well, there's different ways. Let's say if you wanted to set up a data center with some NVIDIA or AI, AMD chips, and you had the capital to fund that, or you could raise the capital to fund that, you could sell those tokens. It's intelligent. It's a factory to produce intelligence. You could sell that to any company, or you could run whatever model that you prefer and sell that intelligence or those tokens to any company. So it's a profitable business, but someone put it this way: it's a sport of kings.
Right.
It's not. If you are coming into this conversation, clearly you have to come with hundreds of billions.
Right.
You can't just you can't play small. But once you set it up, it's very easy. For instance, I'll give you one example. A lot of these tech companies, they also develop their own models, the OpenAIs, the Microsoft, the Googles.
Yeah.
But then you have a company like Oracle, where Oracle is just building the data centers and then leasing it to OpenAI or other companies to then run their models. So that is the kind of arrangement, because as the demand grows for AI, these companies might not necessarily be able to take on all the infrastructure costs.
Yeah.
So if you come on as a reliable partner like an Oracle or like a CoreWeave, and you are just standing up data centers, you are definitely going to have some offtake.
Yeah, for sure.
You are definitely, even I know there's another company that's backed by, I think NVIDIA owns a chunk of the company called CoreWeave. They just buy NVIDIA GPUs and stand up data centers, but then they have Microsoft as a customer.
Right.
They have, so the business case is proven.
Right.
There are some issues about how quickly the hardware becomes depreciated, because Nvidia has a roadmap that goes into the next 3 or 4 5 years. So it's like if you buy a whole lot of chips and you stand up your data center, how soon till Nvidia releases their next chip, and then it's like the unit economics don't work as well? It's an open question. Most of the people who are bearish against businesses like CoreWeave use that as like they're like, what's the depreciation on these chips that you're buying? But I genuinely think that just because they're depreciated doesn't mean you still can't use them to run intelligence. So I think the business case is still somewhat sound, but it needs to be monitored.
Yeah, I mean, just on the chips, right? So we have servers in the cloud that we use to power a lot of our internal tools and even some of our customers' products. And a lot of these servers are actually very old. Intel Xeon servers that were released. Sorry, the chips.
Yeah.
Chips are very old, released over 10 years ago. But these chips are built for server, like production workloads. So they're very stable. Their clock speed is relatively decent, so they can handle sustained workloads. So even though NVIDIA may release a new chip in the next 5 years, I mean, it's most likely going to be able to sustain.
Yeah, I mean, there is some backward compatibility. One of NVIDIA's main moats is the whole software layer. They call it CUDA. That underpins all their products. So let's say a model that could run on the current version of the chip is very likely to run well on future versions, and hopefully vice versa. So I think if you are sourcing and you're building your data center with backward compatibility and forward compatibility in mind, I think the business case remains sound. But long story short, we need a whole lot more data centers. We need a lot more built in Africa. We need currently. I know you off camera you were talking about the Norway data center. Maybe you can talk a bit about.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, with the EU, right, they have very peculiar data protection laws, which is why usually when there's a product that's being released in the States, there's a bit of a delay until it is released in the EU. OpenAI, I think one of their features, I don't know, I think Deep Research or one of them, they haven't been able to release that in Europe as soon as they released it in the States, primarily because of data protection issues. So OpenAI have now, I think they've begun the project in Norway to build a data center because the EU mandates that the data is on-prem.
I mean, it's smart, but then I want to ask, why do you think we're not hearing any announcements of data centers in Africa?
In Ghana or in Africa?
Ghana, Africa, Nigeria, wherever it makes the most sense.
I mean, that's
are they and we are not aware? Like,
so I think that is part of it, because you wouldn't believe it, but there's third-party tier 4 data center here in Ghana.
Okay.
Right? It's in Medina.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that.
Okay.
The same company is building another in Kumasi. A lot of people don't know that. You see, and it's because the clients of these data centers are the enterprise and corporate guys.
But they are not AI data centers.
They are not yet.
Yes,
not
but
yet.
They are just your regular cloud workload
Precisely.
data center.
But a lot of these guys are also understanding that it is time to invest in AI. So these guys who are building in Kumasi, I'm pretty sure they will be a very GPU-intensive data center.
Okay, that's good. That's good, because we need our own sovereign AI, as they put it. We can't necessarily be here in Africa relying on the whole stack remotely in some data center in who knows what country. We need some oversight, some governance, and also beyond that, we need, if you set up a data center here, you are building the ecosystem around that, the skills that are needed to sort of manage it and run. That's jobs. I think we need to see a big push towards setting up some data centers in Africa, and we hope the word will spread, because there is a use case here. A lot of people are starting to hear about AI now and are using it. And I think just from a latency standpoint, if I'm sending a query to my preferred AI and it's in local, I'm sure there'll be some latency advantages there. So we definitely need to push more in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, just on the local data centers, right? I think a lot of people don't realize this, but us overutilizing these products means that we are giving these companies a lot of access to our personal information, right?
Yep.
You can ask ChatGPT a prompt about you, and say, okay, based on what you know about me, give me a risk
And the results are
assessment.
shocking. They're very eerie as to what
Absolutely.
it knows about you, your nuances, your
Absolutely.
idiosyncrasies,
Absolutely.
everything.
And imagine if this information is, you see, the models are able to distill it
Yep.
very well. So imagine if the FBI goes to OpenAI and says,
Easily.
give me a profile of William and Tim.
You know, funny enough, there was a story that came. I think OpenAI was being sued by, I think it might have been the New York Times, but I might be mistaken. And they are trying to get OpenAI to give up some of the data that is stored, like some of the chats that are. And I find that that's a gross violation of privacy.
It is.
In the sense where the kind of conversations people are having, it's not like it's just my photos in the cloud.
Yeah.
People are talking about their most intricate fears,
Emotional,
concerns,
yeah.
and someone put it that there needs to be sort of like, you know how you can have like an attorney-client privilege, where, you know, if you talk to your lawyer or your therapist about something, they cannot just go disclosing that information against
Yeah.
you. As we put more and more sensitive data into these areas, there probably needs to be some kind of recognition that no, the government can't just ask somebody to ask some AI company to give you the history of all your chats. Think about it. In future, if we are running our entire business on the AI, you are just exposing your entire everything that should be private about your company unnecessarily. So that's a policy conversation that I think we need to push more. That there needs to be some AI user, privacy where you can't just come and get the chats that are in my.
Yeah.
Because privacy is very important.
It's key.
It's
key.
very, very important. And even touching on that further, and on the conversation of data centers in Africa, in China, when tech companies get approval to work in China, it comes with the condition that, for instance, I'll give you a typical example. Apple's iCloud operations, all Chinese data on Chinese users of iCloud is in data centers in China. Because sense. That was a mandate of China.
It makes a lot of sense.
And why aren't we having African leaders say that, okay, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Gemini, Microsoft, if you want info, or if you want users based in Ghana, in Lagos, Nigeria, anywhere Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, we want data centers that are based in these areas. Is it that we just don't have the leverage to?
I think this podcast is about AI, and let's focus on the AI.
No, but it's
the political conversation. It will be
but infrastructure is a political question.
It is.
Infrastructure is a political question, but I do agree with you.
Yeah.
But it gets thorny if you go in that direction.
It does, and I mean, just to add to that, I think we are all aware of the geopolitical climate in these parts of the world, and our leaders. In fact, we do encourage you to do a bit better in terms of prioritizing infrastructural investments and just positioning Africa strategically, because China is doing so.
Yeah, they are prioritizing
why
themselves.
Can't we do that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's not about just being stubborn in negotiations with these companies. It's just prioritizing your citizens.
That's all.
From a user experience standpoint, if we have more data centers, user experience will be better. From a privacy standpoint, there are many advantages. So I want to give a word out to a lot of the companies building data centers globally. I think it's time you started looking seriously at the African market and developing some data centers here. I think it's projected that by 2040, every 1 in 4 people will be African. I mean, the numbers are getting out. The numbers are there. The numbers are there. It's. I think both of us are strong believers that is the next decade there will be a lot of growth in Africa, and we need to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. So I think this brings us into our next segment, which is the exponential angle. So it's here we are talking about compounding and the demand for computing power. So, William, I would like for us to start off with the energy and water conversation, right? You mentioned the energy is becoming a bottleneck for these models and all the providers who are building on top of AI. Let's touch on energy, its impact, and let's also speak about water and how it's affecting the AI revolution.
So right now, the AI infrastructure race, as you correctly mentioned, is becoming bottlenecked by energy, because you have all these chips that are very power hungry, and the demand for these tokens of intelligence is also very intense.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily have the power required to solve this issue. The US has this challenge. Africa clearly has, even before AI came, we had power infrastructure challenges. Places like China are very ahead with their solar deployments. They are deploying solar like it's nothing, nuclear. And that's what it's going to take to allow this boom to thrive. If not, we're just going to get to a point where we hit a wall. And we need to be more open to different kinds of technologies. I know now there's a resurgence around nuclear energy, which for some reason years back, I guess we had 1 or 2 accidents and they are like, no, let's pack up. I don't even know how that became a thing. But we should have clearly just kept pushing at it and solving the problem, making it more safer, secure. You have wind that has potential. But the long and short of it all is that we need all of these sources. We just need to add more energy to the grid to really sustain this boom. Solar, nuclear, hydro, wind, geothermal. We need all of it.
So I'm happy you touched on nuclear, because I think out of all of the energy sources you've mentioned, nuclear has a very significant position there.
In terms of the output, everything.
Exactly. And I think a lot of the data centers that are popping up around the world, they have nuclear plants right beside them. Because it's very clean.
It's clean.
Nuclear energy is very clean, even though at some point there were some risks associated with it.
Another thing people don't realize is nuclear of our parent generation is not the same as nuclear of now. Now you have these SMRs, which is small modular reactors, for the audience. And these are some maybe the size of maybe like a small building, not like a huge, massive, some are even working on, reactors the size of like a school bus. And the technology is shrinking. Now they don't have these issues where they go into meltdown, and it's a whole different
controlled.
It's a lot safer. The only issue with nuclear though is that it takes a while to roll out. If you commission a nuclear plant construction today, you are not seeing power output for a minimum of 5 years. Even with the natural gas plants now, there's a shortage of transformers. of natural, I'll touch on that when we get to our investment edge of some of the companies that make these transformers and are doing very well because of that. But what I've realized is the quickest form of energy it seems to roll out is solar. And the price of solar is dropping down dramatically.
But is solar enough to power these energy-hungry labs?
Well, if you build enough, The only issue with solar, I don't know if it's an issue per se, because we have a lot of unused land, is that it takes up a lot of land. But if I commission a solar, if I approve a plan for a solar plant right now, I could have power output in like 12 to 18 months. You will not get the same for a nuclear plant. You will not get the same for other forms of energy, maybe like a natural gas, unless you already have the turbines and transformers available on site. But so if this AI revolution and boom is going to see a lot of exponential growth over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and we know that it takes 10 years, maybe or 5 years, best case, to get a nuclear plant off the ground, then we need to start looking at other things like solar. It might not be the most, I might not have the largest output, but right now we need everything. I even in some countries, they are even trying to get coal into the mix.
They have to.
You have to. It's like, hey, ideally, if we even burn coal and it gives us super intelligence, we can help it.
It's worth it.
We can help it use it to, take all the carbon out of the environment. I think it's worth it.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So I think energy is key. Water
very,
is
very,
key.
very key. The final boss is energy.
Yes.
Energy is the final boss.
So I think that brings us to our next topic, which is the innovation feedback loop, right? A lot of these companies are using AI to build AI. What are your thoughts on how AI is accelerating the actual development of the chips?
So I think Jensen Huang came out and said this, but he's using, in their design department, they are using AI to help improve the design layout of their chips. Google also came up with a model that helps them with their chip development. You have companies like Cadence Design and Synopsys. These are the companies that some of these chip designers, they use their tools to help design their chips. They are introducing AI in their workflow. So we are seeing a sort of compounding here. It's still early, So we don't necessarily have an AI chip where you can say it was 100% designed by AI. But I don't think we should underestimate the human plus AI combination in making some of these chips more efficient. Because one thing that could happen is if we realize that, okay, we are seeing energy bottlenecks, then for the boom to be sustained, the chip developers have to design more power efficient chips.
100%.
And I guess AI would be a good tool to help them make their chips more efficient. So I do like the feedback loop there.
Yeah.
And I think it's very pressing and necessary because, like I say, we're seeing energy constraints.
Yeah.
So I think one of the main things in the newest chips from AMD, NVIDIA, when they are having their keynote presentations talking about it, you always hear power efficiency, because they are realizing that it's becoming a bottleneck. So they have to make the chips more efficient. What I think, if I had to be very optimistic, is that if we should chase both. We should try and make the chips more efficient and try and grow our power supply, and they'll meet at a zenith that would be very beautiful. But so then I think it's good that both approaches are being taken.
I think, just in general business, right? Economies of scale. The more you have, the more you can drive the price down.
Exactly.
And that actually brings me to DeepSeek, what they did. Right? Because DeepSeek came to the market after ChatGPT.
Yeah.
They were able to create a reasoning model. For
the first open source reasoning model. I think they dropped after O1. So O1 was the first reasoning model.
Yeah.
And then DeepSeek was the first open source. But it wasn't that long after. Like, they were very quick.
That's the thing with DeepSeek, right? Because OpenAI has paved the way for them, they are able to move a lot more efficiently than OpenAI. Because they are building a lot of their technology on the lessons learned from these.
It's funny, I think when DeepSeek first came out, some people asked DeepSeek to identify itself, and it says it was a model trained by OpenAI.
It was Anthropic. Yeah, I saw that.
Clearly they are standing on the shoulders of giants.
Absolutely.
To become more efficient.
Absolutely.
And I think they also had some breakthroughs where they tuned the model to something in their development process made them more efficient at using the chips. Because I think in the early part of the conversation, we spoke about how NVIDIA is developing a specific chip for China. Before this was approved, I think the earlier US administration sort of banned NVIDIA from exporting chips to China. So guess what? Necessity breeds innovation. DeepSeek, the company, clearly figured out some clever ways to use the few chips that they have to get output model that's comparable to the OpenAI's. And the constraints sort of forced them to think about workarounds. So I would classify that as an algorithmic breakthrough. So that is just another part of the stool, another leg of the stool. It's like you have the power efficiencies that the chips will become more power efficient. You have increased power supply. And then hopefully if you have some algorithmic breakthroughs where even the software is using the chips in a more efficient manner. I mean, like, clearly DeepSeek has shown that it's possible. So I think the models need to get better at trying to be more efficient.
Yeah, I think, efficiency is a key word here. And
big
as
key.
all of these things are coming together nicely, efficiency is going to be key.
Very, very key.
I think this can bring us into our next segment, which is the African context. I know you've touched on having data centers here in Africa, but let's expand on that a bit more. So again, let's speak about data centers in Africa. There's a company called Terraco. You know about Terraco, right?
I don't.
Okay, so I think they're an Africa-based data center. But there are so many of these guys.
Yeah, there are many.
In silence, and the average Ghanaian isn't going to know much about.
Okay, yeah, they are like a data center company
in Ghana. There's another one called.
I think they're South African.
I forgot the name, but I'll check it quickly.
Okay.
But just in general, let's hear your thoughts a bit more about having the data centers here.
So I feel like it's a very touchy issue because on one hand, I'm sort of imploring some of these data center companies to increase their capex allocated to Africa. Yeah. But on the other hand, listen, in a place like Ghana, Nigeria, we hear of perennial power outages. And these things are power hungry. So how do we reconcile the two? The only way is for African governments and leadership to focus on increasing the power supply. More power projects, more hydro, more solar, more nuclear. I've not heard of any nuclear plants.
Funny enough, Burkina Faso, I can't. We probably need someone to fact check this. But they signed a deal with Russia.
Okay.
Because Russia wanted to set up a nuclear plant in Burkina. I think we should probably fact check this, but that I thought was very forward thinking. You know, the leaders of Burkina today are thinking very long term about Africa.
It's this is the. I feel like till we are actively solving the power problem, it might even be irresponsible to advocate for data centers to come. So what are you going to take the power from the residential homes and then power data centers? Like, no, you're going to have a revolution if you do that. But I do think we need to solve the power problem. Africa is blessed with ample sunlight. Why isn't there aren't there solar panels on every business or home in the country or in the continent? I don't know. Am I missing something?
Well, I mean, it's very early, so let's see how things pan out.
But solar is no longer early, though. I feel like there's clearly something preventing the adoption from going exponential.
I think we have fundamental infrastructural challenges here.
Transmission alone, even if you have
So a lot of people don't know this, but Ghana actually generates more electricity than it can consume, right? Which is why we even export electricity to our neighboring countries. Our main issue is the distribution and transmission of that energy. There are so many inefficiencies across our grid, which makes it very difficult to distribute that to the grid. So I think in terms of generation, we're okay. And back to my point on the infrastructural challenges, we have so many infrastructural challenges. And I think with time, Africa has grown rapidly, and it hasn't had the time to, get mature with some of these things. So because of that, there are gaps, which is what we are now trying to address. Anyway, moving on to the next point in the African lens, there's a concept of edge AI, which is democratizing what is powering the AI to devices on the edge, i.e. your own phones. What do you think?
I actually think you are in a good position to answer this because you have your own local setup. So, I mean, maybe you can talk a bit about...
Sure, why not? So, I mean, to run artificial intelligence, it is very GPU intensive, right? A lot of the models, they rely heavily on the graphics processing units of the system rather than the CPU. And to power GPUs, you need a lot of power, as we've already discussed. As William mentioned, I have my own local AI rig, which I used to, get some stuff done. It's more private. The data is in my home. And because of that, I can really put anything in there. I tried different open source models. So I've tried the DeepSeek. There's a tool called Olama, which is what is used to run these models locally. I do a lot of work with local AI. But back to the edge AI question, right? I think local AI is all good, but it's only a certain kind of individual that may be able to run AI locally. Edge is slightly different.
On the phone.
It's on the phone, it's on
in the
smaller
car,
devices in the car.
Exactly. I feel like it could... Think about it, I think I saw this video demo where John Deere, which is a company that develops tractors, agricultural, heavy-duty agricultural machinery, demoing an autonomous, I think, harvester. That's sort of doing...
everything by itself.
Doing everything itself. And in the future, I strongly believe that everything that moves will be automated. And I'm thinking about what that could do for productivity or even farming or agriculture in Africa, where we have so much arable land and we might lack the expertise to manage it. But if you have this automated equipment that's, managing your farms, doing the harvesting, processing, everything is automated. I think that could be very, very bullish for the agricultural industry in Ghana, or even healthcare, where I saw OpenAI did a pilot project with a hospital in Kenya, where they are involving the AI in the doctor consultation process, where it's helping that it's in on the transcript of the meetings. It's helping give the primary care physician advice on what to do, how to diagnose. So that's something that not necessarily happening at the edge, but I was just thinking about the ways in which it could help our communities. Agriculture could benefit from, automated harvesting equipment and agricultural machinery running on the edge. But,
Side note on that. So I use AI extensively with my doctor, or in place of my doctor.
Yeah.
To the point that sometimes I go get some blood test done, and I just upload the results into ChatGPT and I ask, okay, how are my kidneys doing? What's going on? And it's funny because I've had some minor health issues, and I've spoken to different doctors about them.
Yeah.
And before I go and speak to a doctor, I already know what to expect.
Exactly.
Because I have the AI give me distillates in language I can understand. Oftentimes when I go and see a doctor, they say something which is totally off.
Yeah.
Which makes me think a lot about education.
Yeah,
and how there are certain gaps in education.
And I think after OpenAI did this pilot with the hospital in Kenya, they did a survey, and the primary care physicians I think were more confident in their output. Generally, it led to far better outcomes. Wow. And it's so funny that you mentioned this example, because I did the exact same thing. Just like a couple months ago, I just went to get some blood work done. I got the results. I uploaded it in the AI, and I'm like, okay, what things should I be on the lookout for? I've heard examples of people uploading their blood tests and asking AI to come up with a diet plan that will optimize my against my deficiencies. And think about what that could unlock, But that's a whole other conversation of AI in healthcare.
It is. I think we should probably dedicate an episode.
I think we'll do that. The audience deserves a whole conversation on AI in healthcare.
Okay, that concludes our segment, and I think we can move on to our next segment, which is the investing lens. So we've spoken a lot about data centers, infrastructure, the engine room that is powering AI.
Yep.
Can we speak a bit more about the investments into some of these companies?
Of course. These are this is one of my favorite segments of the podcast, because you get to see you hear all of these trends, but there's companies behind everything.
Yeah.
We've spoken about NVIDIA with the chips. We've spoken about TSMC. I mentioned Cadence. I mentioned Synopsys. There's Broadcom that is developing sort of custom chips for Google and other players. There's Marvell. There's Amazon. And on the power side, you have companies like GE Vernova who make the turbines. You have companies like Tesla who make solar. So I feel like I said, as always, we disclaimer at our investment lens section, these are illustrative examples and not necessarily financial advice. Please do your own research. But I just want to make the point out that there are a lot of companies powering this infrastructure boom that a discerning investor who can identify some of these opportunities could really ride the wave of compound gains. And these are just a few of them that we've mentioned. Are there any other AI infrastructure companies that I think are worth bringing up?
I think we've touched on the major ones. For me, I look at the entire value chain. Right? And in AI, from the bottom, you have the energy providers, you have the chip providers, you have the software providers, you have the cloud providers, you have the products themselves. So there's an entire value chain here that I think to extract the maximum amount from, you must invest and diversify. I don't think you will go wrong. Again, this is not financial advice, but I don't think you will go wrong if you diversify and invest fully into the AI value chain.
And even then, it's like the AI value chain is big enough where you can invest in AI and still be diversified. You can invest in AI, but you can say, okay, you know what? I only want to look for power companies, because I'm a bit skeptical about whether NVIDIA will still be the best 10 years from now. But I know we're still going to need power. That would be a clever thesis. But it's up to you. We just want to get your mind in that direction. Look up some of the companies behind the AI revolution. Do some research on it, find those that you like, and invest accordingly.
Exactly. And just to wrap up this segment, I think the focus, as William said, it can be very broad, right? And the AI value chain is very, very extensive. And there are certain companies that power 90% of this value chain. Try and identify these companies. The semiconductor companies, the power companies, the networking companies. So all the AI that is built, the ChatGPT, the Claude, and so on and so forth, they are all
there's real hardware behind it.
The same
real hardware
behind it. So identify these opportunities and invest. And then
the cloud is not in a cloud; it's in a data center.
yeah. Anyway, so this brings us to our last but one segment, William. And I want to ask one question in particular. Realistically speaking, do you think Africa can become a hub for different types of AI infrastructure?
Realistically speaking,
Yes.
it needs to be.
Good.
There are some bottlenecks and roadblocks that are preventing that from happening now. But I see that as problems that need to be solved.
Right.
And a lot of the problems that we're talking about, let's say power, Africa needs to grow its power supply anyway.
Regardless.
So it's you kill two birds with one stone. If you say, okay, we want, in order for Africa to become an AI hub with data centers in every country serving the local population, we need to solve the power problem. And I do believe we can solve it. We have all the resources here. There's enough oil, enough natural gas, there's enough solar potential, there's enough potential for nuclear. You can get uranium in some of these nuclear reactors are using uranium from African countries. So it's like, as with most of my grievances with Africa, we have all the tools here,
Right.
but we just need to be serious about the implementation.
Right. So let me flip this back to
Sure.
you. So we've had these things for ages.
Yeah.
The uranium has been here. The
Yeah.
oil has been here. All of these natural resources are here.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what can we do differently this time around to extract?
The short answer is better leadership, but that's a whole other podcast episode.
There you go.
The short answer is better leadership, and leadership that recognizes the seriousness of the situation at hand. This is not a joke.
Yeah.
The world is going to look very different 10 years from now due to AI. Africa has carried last on a lot of several things. We do not need to fall back on this. We have a lot of leverage. We have a young workforce that's energetic, and that could be part of delivering this AI infrastructure. And we have all the resources that are necessary.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, that's why I said realistically we need it, because realistically we have issues.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let those issues blind us from the fact that we need to solve it anyway.
Yeah.
It's a problem that needs to be solved. We simply cannot be left behind and become at the mercy of all these other global tech providers and the stack that they are deploying for us to use. We need some ownership in this space.
Yeah, I think, as William is saying, the whole point of us having these discussions is to encourage some of these conversations. We would like to have some of these conversations with different stakeholders in industry. Let's see how we can all come together, support each other. We focus on software. We are a software house. We build software. We have our own internal tools. We have our own internal products. But we would like to have some of these conversations with hardware providers, data providers.
If you're looking to set up data centers in Africa,
absolutely.
Let's
more
talk.
Than happy to support.
Exactly. We're more than happy to support.
Anyway, so I think, anything from you?
I think that's about it. So thank you guys for listening. This episode was about the AI engine room, where the digital meets the physical. And we were happy to have this conversation. Hopefully you guys learned a lot from it. We certainly did as we talk. We learned a lot from each other. And we look forward to future episodes where we'll discuss a lot more interesting topics.
Yeah, so I think everything you need will be in the comments.
Description
the
below.
Description, yeah. So just click the links, follow us on social media. If you have any questions, myself and William are always here, happy to provide assistance. Thank you very much.